What if the people who were supposed to love you and protect you abandoned you? For decades, you struggle, you fight, you scrape by, and you tell yourself the best revenge is simply living well. But then a phone call comes. A voice from the past, asking for help. A voice that has no right to ask for anything. And in that moment, you realize, living well isn't enough. True revenge is a dish best served cold, with a side of utter, complete, and total destruction. This is a story that started over 30 years ago, and it ended with a man in prison, a family's legacy erased, and a purple urn. If you've ever been betrayed by the people you trusted most, then you're in the right place. Hit that like button, subscribe, and prepare yourself for the most complex, long-game revenge story you will ever hear. This story is a long one. It starts 31 years ago, and it's a journey through abandonment, heartbreak, and pure rage. I've had to shorten most of it, but the revenge part, that's all in the details. The journey taught me a ton, and I'm going to share that with you today. The beginning in 1990. I had just finished middle school, and my little sister was still in elementary school. Our family was a mess, but it was our mess. That all changed when my dad met his third wife at the only gas station in our small town. He was a man who loved an easy escape, and she was a very easy escape. They soon moved in together, and my dad abandoned my sister and me in our tiny basement apartment. He went to live on a shanty houseboat that didn't even run. He would show up every other week and give me $40 for groceries, leaving a 14-year-old to raise her sister. The fear, the hunger, the feeling of being completely and utterly alone, it's something you never forget. Eventually, someone figured out our situation and called my mom, and we went to live with her. And believe it or not, that was even worse. My dad and his new wife, who I'll call Shanty Wife, got married in 1991. Not long after, Shanty Wife called me herself. Her voice was dripping with a kind of sickly sweet concern that made my skin crawl. She told me my dad's brain tumor had returned. It hadn't. She told me he couldn't handle the stress of being around us, his own children. That the only people he could bear to be around were her and her son, Shorty, who was my age. I remember my hands shaking as I called my dad to ask if this was true. He said it wasn't, and he just couldn't believe that she would say that to begin with. It was the last time I talked to him for 30 years. That was the final, devastating blow. The lie that sealed our fate and started a decades-long silence. The middle part of this story is a blur of struggle. I worked my way through college, living in my car from time to time, doing whatever I could just to survive. My dad and I were completely no contact, but I heard from family members that he'd bought a nice house and put his son through some vocational classes. He had a new family, a new life, and he was taking care of them. The pain of that knowledge was a dull, constant ache in my chest. When my grandmother died, Shanty Wife and Shorty showed up in a truck and took all the furniture and anything else that wasn't nailed down. They were ghouls, picking through the bones of my family's legacy. It was the final straw. I went no contact with my dad's side of the family. I struggled for years, decades really, but I made it. I have a great job and a good family now. I told myself the best revenge was living well. I believed that for a long time. The pre-end warm-up. 2 years ago, in October 2019, I got a call from my dad's brother, Alan. The voice on the phone was a ghost from my past. He told me my dad was in a nursing home in another state. My gut reaction was, great. He then said, and I need you to go see him because he needs your help. My heart started to pound. What the hell did he want from me? Why was he calling me now? It turned out, Shorty had ghosted him. He was nowhere to be found. A wave of a sinister, giddy pleasure washed over me. And then I heard the location of the nursing home. It was 20 minutes from my house. Pure, unadulterated serendipity. I saw an opportunity and I took it. I went to see him. The reunion was underwhelming. I didn't want to make amends. I didn't care about a father-daughter relationship. I wanted answers. I wanted to know how he, a man who abandoned his children for a shanty boat, wound up, dumped, and alone in a nursing home. And the story was better than I could have ever imagined. Shanty Wife got lung cancer. My dad, ever the caring husband, put her in a nursing home before she died in 2017. No, he didn't. She put him in a nursing home and then she died. She suffered, and I was happy to hear it. I was just sad it wasn't ass cancer. When she died, Shorty became his power of attorney, his POA. He had been visiting my dad, living in my dad's house with his 2 kids, and taking care of my dad's affairs ever since his mom died. But now he was gone. Mia. My dad was worried about him. He asked me to drive the hour and a half to his house just to check on everything. He never even asked me how I had been. Not once. He was a complete stranger, a man who looked like my father, but who was just a shell of a person. I agreed to go, I think out of morbid curiosity. I had never even been to my dad's house. The place where he lived with his real family for 30 years. The house that could have been my home. It was 50 shades of fucking awful. The grass hadn't been cut all summer. You couldn't even get to the front door for the overgrowth. There were 3 pickup trucks in the yard, 2 of them completely filled with trash. Cabs and beds and back seats, just a mountain of garbage. Mail, clothes, paper, shoes, garbage bags. My dad's handicap-modified SUV was on 4 flat tires, also full of garbage. I didn't have a key, so I just walked around. From what windows I could peek through, the inside was in shambles and hoarded to hell. On the front and carport doors were dozens of notices from the city that they were going to condemn the place. The yard was full of garbage. Broken Christmas ornaments, more shoes, old toys. There was even a letter in the mailbox notifying him that since the house was abandoned, mail would no longer be delivered. That night, I went home and I Googled powers of attorney and how to use them. I went back the next day and showed my bedridden father the pictures on my phone. He vowed to beat Shorty's ass, then asked me to help more. I told him I would, but there was a condition. He'd have to sign power of attorney over to me. All of it. Durable for his finances and medical. If he didn't, he could figure this shit out by himself. He agreed, a look of desperation in his eyes. I found a lawyer who was good at his job and willing to drive to another state and do the paperwork in the nursing home. He put together a beautifully bulletproof POA, full of stuff I didn't even know I would need. He also filed the paperwork to revoke Shorty's POA. And now I was unstoppable. I was from a small rural town. The kind of place where no matter how long you've been gone, you see someone you know. It's like playing 7 degrees of everybody all the time. It's suffocating, but it can also be helpful. The beginning of the end. I got to work the next morning. I didn't know how scorched the earth would be when I finished. I just wanted to make sure nothing I did had my name on it, just in case Shorty or his prolific, inbred family tried to find me. I opened a Google account for my dad and got a Google number. I opened a P.O. box for him in his town. I pulled his credit report. I went to my dad's small-town bank, changed the address on his accounts, and got new account numbers. I requested copies of every transaction back to the day Shanty wife had died. I sat in the lobby all afternoon, going through the accounts. This is where I figured out the extent of Shorty's staggering stupidity. My dad got about $5,000 a month in disability and Social Security. Twice a week, Shorty was going into a branch and withdrawing all of the cash. For 13 months. And every time he did it, as the POA, he had to sign a form stating he was acting on behalf of my dad. That form was notarized by the bank. I got the bank to confirm every one of those withdrawals was made by Shorty. I then went to the house and called a locksmith. I knew it was bad, but I had no idea what was waiting for me. He got the first door open, and the stench rolled out like a fog bank. We both gagged. I gave him a $60 tip out of pure embarrassment. And with a shiny new set of keys, I called the cops. I told them I was the POA, and that there were 3 vehicles there that didn't belong to him. I wanted them towed. 2 wreckers showed up. The tow truck guy asked me for my signature. I only signed my first name. As I was signing, he asked, "Do you know Shorty?" Running on pure hatred at this point, I surprised myself. "Do you?" I asked. He said he did, and that he's an asshole. I responded, he might be. "Hey, can you do me a favor? If you see him, will you tell him MNWNM is coming for him?" His bravado evaporated. They towed the trucks. When everyone was gone, I opened the door in the carport to peek in. The sun was going down, and it was dark in the house. I heard something faint. After a few seconds, I realized it was the roaches and the rats doing their roach and rat stuff. I could smell it all in my hair. I sat on the carport steps and watched the sun go down. I was mad. Just so cosmically livid that 72 hours was all it took to dissolve 3 decades of my life, and here I was, stinking and listening to the rats and cleaning up everyone else's shit. Taking time away from my family, and for what? I had a coming-to-Jesus moment with myself. I could either bow out now or I could triple dog down. And the thought of Shorty's life being upended, his only source of income disappearing literally overnight, and my dad having to hear, secondhand from me, that he's broke and alone, made me absolutely giddy. So, I decided I was going to do it. That night I Googled restraining orders. And it was surprisingly easy. I went to the courthouse, filled out the form, and saw a judge who recognized my dad's military service and my DoD contractor logo. I told him the story, handed him the form, and he granted the temporary order. Shorty was served, and a hearing was set. I hired a biohazard company to clean out the house for $7,000. They found my dad's mummified dog under some pizza boxes in the master bedroom. They sent me pictures and salvaged some papers. I got to work collecting and documenting everything. I made spreadsheets and timelines with cross-references because screw it, now they had my full attention. Before court, I went to the police station nearby and told them I wanted to report an elder abuse crime. A white-collar detective told me it was a domestic matter, and since Shorty had been POA, everything he had done was legal. And this was the day I got to teach a small-town detective about the fiduciary responsibilities of a POA. I handed him a thick folder with bank statements, pictures of the hoarded house and dead dog, a copy of my dad's credit report that showed he was tens of thousands of dollars in debt, and a spreadsheet listing every cash withdrawal. The grand total was just over $130,000 in cash. That didn't include the lost value of the house or the credit cards he had opened. The detective apologized and gave me a case number. This is the end. There were other people at the courthouse, and I had to wait my turn. And while I was waiting, that stupid motherfucker schlepped his sloppy, dirty ass into the courtroom. His shoes were untied, and that turned my giggle box over. It was our turn, and we stood up. The judge asked me some questions, asked him some questions, and asked me if I had any proof. I had a very thick folder of it. "Did you go to the police?" he asked. "Yes, sir, I have." "Do you have a case number?" As a matter of fact, the order was granted, permanently and for life. The judge halted proceedings and told Shorty he needed a lawyer. I used my POA to take Shani wife off the deed to the house. That way, if my dad died and it went into probate, Shorty had no immediate claim. Shani wife left my dad $50,000 in life insurance. About $35,000 of that was left since Shorty was spending my dad's money and not his mom's. So I opened an account and transferred every penny over. I also found a house flipper that paid me enough for the house to pay off his mortgage. That's the thing about probate. There's nothing to fight over if there's nothing there. And I made sure there was fucking nothing there. My dad died thinking he still owned a house. I also found my dad's life insurance policies. They were up to date, and Shani wife was the beneficiary. My POA didn't allow me to change beneficiaries, but it allowed me to assign them since Shani wife was dead. I assigned my sister and me as beneficiaries. Irrevocable, too. I kept my dad in the dark about all this. The only thing he ever really knew about was the restraining order and his dead dog. I found out he had purchased a gravesite next to Shani wife and wanted to be buried next to her. That was never going to fucking happen. I Googled national cemeteries and found out he qualified since he was a disabled Vietnam-era veteran. So I arranged for that instead. All the cherries on top. My dad died in June of this year, and I was there. He's buried in a national cemetery far away, where no one will ever go visit him. The only obituary I ran was on the funeral home's website, and that only for insurance purposes. I wrote it as vague as possible. There was no service. His urn is purple, the color he hated most. I got a call in August from the prosecutor's office in my hometown. The lady on the other end is married to my first cousin, because of course she is. That's how it works there. Shorty was arrested just after midnight on July 1st. He was arraigned on felony elder abuse charges. He's facing 10 years in prison. I told her that was awesome since the uncertainty would hopefully haunt him. After all that, he still has prison to look forward to. He lost his kids. He lost his dad. I'm spending his mom's cancer money. He lost his free house and his trucks. He has no credit and will never be able to get a decent job or find a place to live.